Okay, so welcome everyone to our live podcast episode. I'm Kat, I'm a spiritual medium and healer based in Swindon, and with me is Mel Stevens.
Hello, I'm a spiritual mentor and spiritual teacher and Reiki master based in Devon.
Yes, so today our topic of discussion is dreams. I have started working with dreams more, let's say, professionally already just recently, and I have been delving deep into the subject of dreams a little bit more than what I knew of dreams before. And so I thought it's a very fascinating subject and worth talking about, really. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I could start with a little intro on just the power of dreams in general. What is it that even dreams are? Because they happen on our subconscious level, they happen during our night hours mostly, unless we are daydreaming. That's kind of the same, similar thing or state of consciousness that we're in. And there are so many beliefs around dreams depending on who you ask, beliefs and practices. So, are you speaking with mystics? Are you speaking with scientists? Are you speaking with psychologists? They will all tell you something about dreams. So I believe scientists would say things like, oh, it's a processing of information that we picked up during the day, our experiences, our actions, and so on. Psychologists will tell you that it goes a little bit deeper into our mentality, our mental health state, our emotional state, and we can gather a lot of information from our dreams on those subjects. And then mystics would also add things like you can receive visitations from your past loved ones. You also communicate with your spirit guides. You can learn about your past lives. Um, I'm just having a look if there's like anything I'm forgetting. Oh, lucid dreaming, astral travel, all of these things. And so, really, it's all of it. The dreams are all of it. I think for maybe majority of us, what might be most, let's call it, practical and interesting to start with is that dreams can help us understand ourselves, find healing within our mental and emotional life, as well as physical healing it brings, because it's the space, our subconscious is the space that processes the information that we gather during the day, yes, but also it wants to make sense out of it, and it wants to, let's say, release it, let it go, or process it in a way that will bring understanding and some sort of emotional mental release, so that it doesn't so that the emotions are not stuck within our energy, and then perhaps bringing some sort of unwanted physical issues, for example. Excuse me. So yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and um, and there's a lot of depth to it, really. So yeah, so Mel, do you dream a lot? Do you remember your dreams?
It depends. Like most people, I guess, most of the time, no. And then occasionally when I wake up, I'm still sort of in the middle of my dream. But most of the time I'm not focused on it enough to really be thinking too much about it, if that makes sense. So I'll wake up and I'll feel the impact of the dreams. If I've had a scary dream, I'll wake up and I'm a bit like, oh. Or if I've had a confusing dream, I'll wake up and I'll still feel confused. I'll still be feeling what I felt in my dreams. But because I've just woke up, maybe I'm sort of not trying to interpret it or make sense of it. So I very quickly find it just goes. And then if I try and get it back, it's really hard. That I think, oh, I woke up and I had this dream and I know it impacted me and I felt something, but I can't remember what I felt and now it's gone. And the more you try to bring it back, the harder it is to remember. And they usually don't make much sense, like I guess with most people. Sometimes they involve people I know, sometimes they involve people I don't know who they are. But again, it's, sometimes it's like a replay of something that's happened in my life, but not in exactly the way it played out, in a slightly different way. But the emotion is something that's familiar to me. So it will bring up emotions. And I just feel like my dreams, a lot of the time, I'm healing from something.
Yeah.
And I have asked my spirit guides before when I've gone to sleep and I've felt like something stuck. I've said, can you heal me whilst I'm asleep, whilst I'm dreaming? And then if I wake up and I've had a really weird dream, I know it's got something to do with whatever my guides have been working on. But yeah, more I feel them more than I can't make sense of them a lot of the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because our dreams and our subconscious works in a way that is not logical. It's
Mm.
just sort of our imaginary or imaginative way of our brain using all the information that it dealt with during the day or a lifetime or whatever, depending if you have recurring dreams, because
Mm.
they probably then bring a bit of a long-term pattern of some sort. So yeah, so with the dream recall, I have written down a few pointers from the course that I'm taking right now on how to help people dream, to recall their dream.
Mhm.
So I thought I'll show just a few because they're actually quite simple. Some of them are like you'd think, where is that coming from? But those are taken from some practice. It works for some people, it doesn't work for other people. So just play with it, I suppose, and see what works for you. Now, starting with what you said, Mel, you would sometimes wake up and you remember kind of how you feel, or you wake up in some sort of a mood. That is one of the practices. It's called mood savoring. So you're savoring the mood that you woke up in without trying to consciously push to remember, but you're just savoring the mood a little bit, and then you just let it can trigger the dream recall, and it will start bringing the pictures, because I think it's pretty similar to any sort of right brain activity where we don't want to put too much pressure on it, because then it doesn't do what we want it to do. We just kind of need to relax and let go into for that side of us to kind of come forward. Um, Now, so first of all, I just want to say that whoever is not remembering their dreams very well, it might be that you have a dream blockage, most likely brought by your belief that dreams are not important, or dreams are just my mind processing something, they don't carry a lot of importance. There might be some sort of belief within you that doesn't let you remember the dreams very well. So, with that, I suppose you can just sort of ask yourself, what is your belief, and just work through it a little bit, and maybe trying to change it with affirmations, some positive affirmations that affirm what you actually want to do. So, yes, dreams are important, and I remember every dream that I dream. Or, for example, a little affirmation to start with. Um, Otherwise, if you do remember snippets, um, that is actually good enough. It doesn't have to be the full thing. Like I said, the mood savoring, so what mood you're in, savor that a little bit, or just write this down. I was in this mood. It might trigger the dream recall. And by the way, the mood itself can tell you quite a bit about your dream already. You could use conversation. So if you share a bedroom with someone, if it's possible, the moment you wake up, you just start talking about what you're still feeling, maybe the mood you're in, whatever it is that you remember, just start talking, maybe even before you open your eyes, and then it might get you into that state. Um, Other quite interesting ways, so I'll share. There is there's a dream recall technique with water. So you can fill up a glass of water before you go to bed, drink half of it, and say, affirm, tonight I remember my dreams. Then when you go to sleep, you wake up in the morning. If you can't recall, drink the other half and affirm, my dreams are recalled now and throughout the day. And it might be that something will come up now, or it might pop in throughout the day. The other technique with water also is when you go to bed, you're ready to fall asleep, you have some water beside you, so you dip 2 fingers in the water, put them on your throat lightly, and then rub it in your third eye center for a moment. And as you do that, you also affirm, tonight I will remember my dreams. And then I believe, actually, I didn't write it down. I think you do the same thing in the morning. So you wake up, 2 fingers, touch it, and I personally never tried it. So it's a really interesting technique. But, if anyone feels like trying it out, let me know how it works for you. There are many. There's a visualization technique where you can either, so before you go to bed, you can visualize that you are now waking up in the morning, you remember your dream, and you're writing it down in your notebook, for instance. So you set this visualization before you go to sleep. Or the other way around, where when you already wake up in the morning, you just close your eyes for a second and visualize yourself back the night before when you were getting back into bed. Imagine that you're falling asleep and you're dreaming. And you kind of like imagine you dreaming, but that activity itself can then spark the actual dreams that you had. There's a doodle technique. So you just start doodling as you wake up. You can just start doodling because it wakes up the right brain, right? You're not thinking, logically analyzing, you just doodle. That can spark it as well. Rolling technique. That's a interesting one where you wake up in one position, let's say on your back, and you don't remember anything, then maybe roll on your left or your right, because it's possible that when you were dreaming, you were lying on your left side. And so when you roll to that side, it will spark a memory. That one I can account for because I actually did that unintentionally. But I did roll back once when I woke up in the morning without much of a recollection. And when I rolled to my side, I actually got the images. So I've tried that one on myself. Yeah, I think those are like the main ones I would mention. So there are many ways of remembering, but like I say, maybe try with start with trying to find out if there are any blockages that you might have about remembering the dreams.
I think with the main thing, and this is always the same with any spirit work, isn't it? The main thing is the intention, and stating that intention that I will remember my dreams, and even writing that down, maybe putting it next to your bed. So that as soon as you wake up, you look at a sign that says, what did you dream about? So you're like, oh, okay, quick, write it down. I also had a quick Google then, just in case there were any crystals that could help with dream recall. Yes. And the first one I thought about was the first one I've just found on Google, which is amethyst. I actually found that when I put amethyst, it's this one. I'll show you the offending item. It's gorgeous, but I put this beautiful crystal by my bed and didn't sleep for many days until I realized what was causing my lack of sleep. It kept me awake because it stimulates you were saying about the brow chakra, it stimulates the brow chakra, and that is where we can see visions clairvoyantly. So that must be what we use when we dream to show us those the dream imagery that we see. So amethyst, maybe put in some by the side of your bed or under your pillow. And equally with how I work with crystals, again with intention, is cleanse the crystal first, hold the crystal in your hand and set it with the intention to help me to recall my dreams, and then place it either by my bed if it's a big piece like that. Or if it's little, it can fit underneath your pillow. And lepodolite as well. I know you've got some lepodolite. That is meant to be a good one for helping with dream recall as well. And yeah, I would probably go with anything that stimulates the brow.
Mm-hmm.
And drinking water always wakes me up in the early hours, and that's when I'm right in the middle of my dream, and that's when it's
Yeah.
easier to remember it. It's also remembering to put a piece of paper and a pen by my bed so that I can write it down, because by the time I've been scrabbling around to find it, it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So there are also tools that you can use, like you said, crystals. You can program your crystal to help you with your dreams. There are dream pillows, so you can just buy a little pillow, literally create one yourself, spray some oils, what you call them, like that you use for aromatherapy.
Essential oils.
Essential oils, that's it. You can spray some essential oils, maybe some lavender to help you sleep and to sort of, and then when you have that sleep pillow or dream pillow, when you sleep with that dream pillow, it's like setting an intention. Okay, tonight I'm remembering my dream. And then you can say, what is it that you want to remember from your dream, or what do you want from your dream, really? Because like I mentioned, you can ask to meet your spirit guides, you can ask to meet your angels, your loved ones, past life recall you can do. So you can always set an intention for that. There was one more, because you were talking about the crystals. Yeah, no, I think it just loaded me. There was one more thing, but that's fine. There are many things, and it all really comes down to that intention, like you say. So there are many ways in which we can remember. Now, I just wanted to maybe mention how I have discovered the dream started helping me, because when I started the course, I didn't understand fully how it can help. Okay, so apart from the fact that I understand it can help us understand ourselves a bit better, and understanding where our subconscious is leading us as well, because that's an important point to mention, that our mind being the conscious and subconscious, the subconscious mind it's actually responsible for around 95% of our brain activity during our waking hours. So we don't realize how powerful it is, how much it's subconscious, therefore it's unconscious. And yet it drives our actions, our thoughts, our decision making. And then, so that's when then at night, all of this information, all of this data that we have gathered, it somehow is stored, processed, or stuck within us, within that subconscious, unconscious side of us, really. So it's very, very useful to start paying attention to your dreams so that you can understand. Well, first, if you pay attention to your dreams, you let your brain really work through things. So it can be healing. It can release a lot of emotional, mental problems, issues, challenges, or pain, right? Any emotional pain that we might be carrying with us. So yeah, and then when I started looking into my dreams a little bit more, I noticed how much information they give me about my emotional life. So, for those who probably listen to our discussions quite a bit, they know that I keep talking about emotions quite a bit. It seems to be the topic that I'm focusing quite a lot of my attention on, and it's ever expanding. Seems like, because although you might learn at some point how to manage your emotions and express them in a healthy way, as we discussed in the shadow work discussion. Sometimes it would be nice to maybe fully understand what they are really. What are they telling us? And I didn't realize that I had a bit of a difficulty still naming the emotions that I had, and figuring out what are they really telling me. And then when I started working with dreams, it actually brought a lot of light to all of these matters that I felt, or I just didn't pay that much attention to. I didn't really think about them that much. That's the thing. It's not something I was thinking about consciously. I might have felt something during the day a little bit, and then we don't pay attention to it. You felt something. It might have been minor, and then it turns out that at night it really comes out within my subconscious mind, and it shows me. It happens in such a fictional way, because the situations or things that I do in my dream are not really what I actually have been doing during the day. So especially those dreams, I started interpreting them, and they gave me a lot of insight as to where they're coming from. And then once I was prompted by the message from the cards, because I use the cards for interpreting, as well as researching the symbols in the dream. And it's almost like my conscious mind understood the message from the cards, and then quickly my memory would bring the situation from the day before that triggered this dream. And I just thought, wow, it was sort of like a revelation for me, because I thought, oh yes, that is very true. And I did think for a split second about this one thing. I didn't realize it was such a big thing that then my mind felt like it needs to reprocess and probably maybe heal and understand a little bit better. So that's where the dream symbols come in. Because it's really important that you, one, look at your dream from a very subjective perspective. So you want to think about and analyze it in terms of how did you feel? If something showed up in your dream, how do you feel about this thing? Let's say it's an animal. How do you feel about this particular animal? Did you have any experiences with them? What do you associate with this animal? But then to add an extra layer, you can look at the symbolic meaning, which you can find. You can find a lot online. You can buy books. And when I started to look at my dreams from the original perspective of how do I feel about this, what feelings are coming up, what do I think about this. But then when I started using the symbolism and researching, that actually gave me so much more information. That resonated with me quite a lot, and brought other things to light that, like I said, I didn't even realize. So you might want to do that if you want to be able to move on in life, especially if you're maybe struggling with something in particular and you're not sure why, because our subconscious, apart from it just storing and processing information and trying to understand it, it actually gives us solutions as well. Because all of the information that we need really to get better is within us. It's just how do we access it? One way is that you and I use reading the cards. You can, because you're still, even reading the cards, you're tapping into your unconscious side, which is then connected also to your spirit. And then if you're a spiritual person, there's a high chance that your spirit guides will be sending you messages through your dreams. And then that's when, for instance, if you do dream about a specific animal, have a look at the spiritual meaning if you're quite a spiritual person and you're leaning that way, because there most likely is a message for you there. Because, like I said, that's why it just depends on your personal way of being and living, really.
I think with things like animals in dreams as well. I mean, they show up in waking life as well, don't they? As a symbolic meaning for something. And lots of us have experiences with butterflies or magpies. I mean, magpies are known for various different things. Seeing robins when you've got a loved one around you. So, I mean, I guess what that animal means when you see it in waking life. If you say, "Oh, I've just seen a robin," I always see a robin when my granddad's around me in spirit. Then, if I dreamt of a robin, I would assume that that meant the same thing that if I'd seen it in waking life. I don't tend to have many dreams of animals actually, but I do see them physically, and I do see them for certain reasons, and I do get particular animals appear at particular times, particularly robins.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't think I've dreamt of a robin.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
There's still time.
Yeah, that's really cool because you see, what I started dreaming about many animals since I would say, because I've always been a deep dreamer, I always had very deep dreams, but I haven't had animals in my dreams until I would say I started my spiritual work pretty much. So the past few years. And they would just come in, just random animals. They're not related to any documentaries or TV shows that I was watching that had that animal. But I have bought a book on totem animals, animal guardians, by Stephen Farmer. I can't remember the title, but it's your power animals and your totem animals. So Spirit knew I have a book. So for me personally, now when I see animals in my dream, I go to that book and it tells me what it's about. Sometimes I go online and also research a little bit more about that particular animal. Now that's very personal to me because, like I said, I am a spiritual person. I practice spirituality. I talk to my guides. They know I love animals. They bring animals. And so I dream about all different kinds of animals. I had a crocodile, alligator, lion, orca, hippo.
Wow.
Like possum, like just all kinds of them. And then I just look up and see what's the message, because I know that my spirit guides or angels, just my spirit team, is sending me messages that way. And it's often a message regarding something I've been thinking about during the day. So they give me guidance on what it is that I was, like, for instance, just very recently, I was thinking about this course. you would understand because we both like courses. I was like, oh, should I, is that this other thing that I should do, because it's actually quite long and, it's quite an investment as well, but maybe, I could do this, maybe I could move things around. And then I can't remember if it was the hippo or the orca dream, one of them, and it said not to, I can't remember the exact words now, but it was basically telling me, don't do anything new right now, just stay grounded with what you're doing already, kind of, and leave any distractions aside, kind of thing. And I was like, okay. So I thought that was so cool because because they gave me that answer. Now, for those who maybe aren't as spiritually focused, animal dreams tend to actually show the wild side, the wild instinctual side of ourselves. And as we know, every animal has their own traits, their personality, they're known for something. So it's very possible that your subconscious is trying to have you acknowledge that instinctual side of you and those traits that an animal brings. So that's why sometimes even you don't have to necessarily look up what does a snake mean in my dream. You can just look up the information on snakes, on their life, how do they behave, what they're like, because their traits can tell you a lot about what it is that your mind is trying to tell you. So, for instance, if you dream of a dog, we know it's companionship, friendship, loyalty. So perhaps those topics are somehow important for you in the waking life. And yeah, and then whatever else happens in the dream, they can be there's so much information in our dreams, and the dream can be super short, and yet it's rich in information. Colors do have a meaning as well. And yeah, like literally anything that's in the dream. That's why I started the short videos on different elements and the symbolism of different elements within our dreams. So I started with the house, now in buildings, and I'll be moving on to animals and all the other things that are out there, and there's a lot. So
I was just thinking, I mean, there's so much that could come into our dreams, and there are those dreams that are very common, that everybody at some point will have dreamt of being chased. Everybody at some point will have dreamt of their teeth falling out, which when I first had that dream, that was awful. I was really disturbed by that. I woke up thinking, why on earth have I dreamt that my teeth have fallen out? And I was so distressed in the dream. Very, very common dream experience. Didn't realize that until I looked it up. But then you've got like you say, it's a bit like when you start reading tarot or oracle. When you start diving into it, the colors mean something, the expressions on people's faces, the tone of their voices, not only the animal you see, but what was the animal doing? How did it make you feel? Was it an angry lion, or was it a tame lion? What does that tell you? There's so much you can get from dreams. And I just wondered, when you talked about color, have you ever dreamt not in color, in black and white? I mean, I don't think I have, but that
no, personally I haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I haven't personally, but that would be an interesting case study for sure. And I thought it would be also worthwhile mentioning that the dreams, I would say, without speaking about messages from spirit guides or visitations from our loved ones, but the dreams that are focused on our own life, whoever we dream about or whatever we dream about, it's always in relation to us, or it's some sort of an aspect of us. So we might be dreaming, so like I said, with the animals, it's the wild side, the instinctual side. What does that animal represent? It will be the aspects of you that perhaps you're not nurturing or acknowledging in some way. Same with dreaming of other people. A lot of times they signify the aspects of us that we're, again, not acknowledging, not seeing, maybe we're hiding, suppressing, or whatever the case may be. And so it goes with nightmares the same. It most likely is our shadow, things that we are afraid of. So because this is, again, our brain, our imaginative side of the brain processing the information. So fear, how would fear show up for us? Like a monster, probably. Something that's scary, right? So therefore it then shows up in our dream as something scary, and it's a nightmare and we're scared because we are processing our fears. Now, if you're able to, if it's a recurring dream, and probably, I think many people, by the time they have dreamt certain nightmare for many times, they probably at some point become lucid. And so lucid being you're conscious within your dream, you realize that you're dreaming, and you kind of know what's coming, right? And if it's the nightmare, let's say there's some sort of a monster chasing you, I would suggest that you decide in your dream not to be afraid and face the monster, because that's what it is, where you're running away from yourself or running away from this fear that you feel within you. So if you face it and you ask it, what do you want? Literally, it's not so scary anymore. It most likely will morph into something else, it will tell you, and you can probably make peace with it, maybe embrace it, find out what it is um, that you feel fearful of in daily life. So it will help you to deal with that fear, perhaps heal it even during that dream, having that dream. Um, so yeah, so I would always pay attention to how who I saw or what I saw relates to me. The dream about the falling teeth, the teeth falling out. I used to have that dream a lot when I was younger. Recently, maybe I had one, no, okay, maybe 1 to 3 in the past 3 years once I started working on myself a little bit. Working on reducing my anxiety or healing really from anxiety really, or from experiencing anxiety, I should say. And I know that the teeth falling out means that we are overwhelmed by something in our waking life, and it's almost like we're trying to keep something right stable that's just falling apart, and we can't keep it there. It's scary because our teeth otherwise are very solid within our waking life, and yet they're crumbling down. So something solid within you is crumbling down, and you have no control. You're too overwhelmed to stop it from happening. It could be you could be dreaming about this when big changes are coming up, or they are happening, and you're just stressed out. You're overwhelmed, and things are happening a little bit out of your control, even if you planned it. But it's a big thing.
I was just going to say that actually, is it that loss of control? Because when you think about, take the symbology out for a minute, take the fact that it's your teeth away, because your teeth are fine, they're not going anywhere. But what is the feeling? It's the feeling of loss. It's the feeling of loss of control because you can't stop it happening. And it's that it's grief. You feel grief because you lost something that can't come back. It's not going to be able to come back, and you're stuck with this now. So yeah, when you mentioned that, I was just thinking just before you said it, loss of control. Perhaps that's the symbolism of that loss of control. I haven't had that dream for quite some time, but I have had it more than once, and it's been really emotionally not empowering, that's not the word I mean, impactful, which is why I've remembered it when I've woken up. And I just remembered that I've had some when you were talking about when you're having a nightmare and you're lucid, I used to have dreams where I would scream. That can't have been nice for people that live with me. And it was because of I'm claustrophobic. And what I think I was doing is kind of semi-waking up and not being able to see because it's dark, because I have to sleep. It has to be dark or I can't sleep. Not knowing where I am, and I'm still sort of partly in the dream. And then it used to freak me out because I'd want to wake up, because I'd be terrified in my dream that I couldn't breathe, that the walls were closing in on me, and I was getting panicky. But I would shout, like for Dom or for my mum or for anyone, I'd shout their names. So it's like I knew they were there. I was shouting at them to wake me up, and I'd be like, help me, wake me up, help me. And then they'd literally like shake me or something, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm awake now. So I kind of knew like somebody was in the house with me. I shouted their name to get them to wake me up, because I knew full well that I was safe, but I was trapped in this dream. And then I've had this since I was a kid, because I remember waking up, the landing light going on, and mum or dad coming into my room saying like, what's happening? Are you being murdered? And I'd be sat up, but my eyes would be shut. So I was still in my dream space, but I knew, I was like, wake me up, and then they wake me up, and I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Very strange and really unpleasant, and they didn't stop when I was a kid. The last one I had was probably, I don't know, a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, so not that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, you see, because that's where that is how we work, like our subconscious and our imaginative side is really part of our life. So it's like you're becoming really aware of it because you're still in that state of not being fully conscious, I suppose, but you're conscious enough to know that you're. So yeah, it's that's why it's all very real, just because it happens in your mind, but it's your energetic mind, I wouldn't call it. It's within your energy. So dreams can really have an impact on our physical body. Like we can, we would feel it. I remember I was dreaming about feeling sick, like I wanted to puke. Sorry for everyone if that a bit much. And it was so weird. I was feeling so sick in my dream that it woke me up because I was almost, well, I wasn't actually being sick in in my bed, but the action of your diaphragm that makes you, the muscle that makes it happen, was so pulsating so hard and spasming almost, it woke me up. And I just thought, oh my God, what was this? Because it was just so powerful in the dream, and our bodies, go through it
Yeah.
also.
Well,
That's
your
how it.
body reacts though, doesn't it? It's like I read somewhere once that our brains can't differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. So
No.
we
Yeah,
visualize things.
exactly.
That's why our memories can be so strong, because we can go back to a time
Exactly.
where we felt scared, happy, whatever, and all the emotions come flooding back, even though we know
Yeah.
consciously we're not in that space. Our bodies are reacting as if we are. And I've had dreams before where I've sobbed in my dreams. I've been really, really crying. And when I've woke up, when you feel a bit sore because you've been crying, you kind of get
Yes.
soreness down here. And I've thought, was I, I mean, I've been like, no tears, but I've thought, was I actually crying? Because my body has done the
Yes,
action of
exactly.
crying,
Exactly.
releasing.
I had those as well where I cried so hard in my dream. I woke myself up again
Yeah.
because I was, yeah. That's why you can see really a great connection between your mind and your body. And
Mm.
that really expands further towards physical ailments, which I want to mention here because I have um, done an interview with a lady, and the podcast interview will be available. I'll link it in the description of this video as well. Who practices sanomentology? I just learned about it now. I actually haven't heard of this before. But sanomentology is a technique which helps you heal chronic illnesses such as arthritis, fibromyalgia, anxiety, depression, literally any, well, digestive issues, any sort of um, chronic illnesses that we deal with through the work of dreams. Except this technique, it's they do it through so-called waking dreams. So they put you into, it's almost like hypnotherapy. So you kind of go into that state that you would during hypnotherapy. But instead of within hypnotherapy, they would most likely guide you through something depending on what it is that you came to them with, what issue it is, to maybe change your beliefs and stuff. Whereas sanomentology will put you into that state in which you can dream, and within the dream, you don't know you don't understand what's happening because it's a dream. But the point of it just coming out and letting yourself dream, it releases the emotional stuckness, trauma from your body that you would have been holding onto up until now, that was causing your body to deteriorate.
Wow.
Yeah, so you then would, so it's called waking dream because you're not really sleeping, but you're kind of sleeping. So you're not remembering everything that happened in the dream, in that waking dream, because that's not the point. You don't have, it's almost like you don't really have to understand it, but you just need to let yourself allow it, so your conscious mind is not coming in trying to
Yeah.
analyze, push, create, imagine. No, you just let your subconscious take you where it needs to take you to be able to release and heal whatever it is that sits in your body that's causing the illness. So it can be released. And then of course it depends on what it is that you're dealing with. it can take many treatments or many sessions, but there's a very fascinating, interesting story with Kate, who I was interviewing, and she shares her own experience and how she came across this modality that she now also practices online. So you can like see her, to help with chronic illnesses, which is pretty huge. So anything that's autoimmune
Yeah.
problems. We were talking about skin problems like eczema, ADHD, all sorts of stuff. Very
Wow. Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, I'd like to watch your interview with her as well. So if you pop the link in the description box, I'll have a watch of
yeah,
that later too.
yeah, I will.
Yeah. I mean, I had hypnotherapy. I've had it a few times actually, and I've had hypnotherapy to regress into past lives. And what I was expecting to be just an interesting experience of learning who I was, which it absolutely was, turned out to be a lot more healing than I was expecting. Because when I listened back to the transcript in one of my past lives, I was just sobbing the way through it because it was really harrowing. And I remember it. I remember going into the hypnotherapy, but it's a bit blurry. But when I listen back to it, I realized I've released a lot of emotion connected to this past life experience. And whether I visualized it exactly as it played out in that lifetime, I don't know. And I've got no way of proving that. But for me, it was a very healing experience because it brought up stuff that I needed to release. And I guess when we're in that, whether you're in a hypnotic trance, whether you're asleep, it's our brainwave changes, doesn't it? It changes the actual frequency of our brainwave to be a lot more receptive to the unconscious, and to be able to bring up the stuff that ordinarily is just not accessible until we get into that space to be able to dig it up and and look at it and bring it to the light, whether that's shadow work, past lives, trauma.
Exactly. Exactly, and I think it's that sanomentology is a very useful modality for those who also consciously are aware of maybe trauma that they have lived through in the childhood or wherever in the past,
Mm.
but they don't want to do a therapy that will require them of entering that space again. Because here in sanomentology, you just go and let your dream sort it out, and it's going to be imaginative. It's not you're not going back to that situation to deal with it if it was too hard. So you can use it. You can use it for that reason if you don't want to do any sort of therapy that will have you revisit the trauma that you lived through, which is very useful, I think. And a couple other things I wanted to mention that I'm learning. One of them being very similar to sanomentology, although I have discovered, let's say, the work of dreams from a different perspective. To Kate, who was more of a practitioner within the physical issues. I was coming more from the well-being, our mind, our emotions, and how to address our subconscious. And so what I'm learning now also is called dream gazing, which would be similar to the activity you do in that sanomentology, sounds like, because what you do in dream gazing, if you have an issue within your body, let's say there's a physical issue. It doesn't have to be physical, but you can also do it for that. Let's say your elbow suddenly kind of hurts. And dream gazing is when in your waking day, you just decide to enter a dream and you just let your imagination run free. So let's say, okay, you have this painful arm, elbow, and you think, what is the cause of this? And you let yourself imagine that you're entering a dream state. Just if there are colors coming up, maybe you suddenly see an animal, maybe, again, it will be very random like the dreams are, except you're doing it during the day. And whatever happens, just write it down like you would with your normal dream. And then you do your own deciphering, right? So I said, if it's symbols, how you felt, what it brings to your mind and things like that. So you can kind of figure out why is this, arm, elbow hurting me. So it's sort of similar, except it's not probably as in depth as sanomentology, because I'm sure they have some techniques and procedures that they follow. But yeah, that's one of the things called dream gazing. There's also dream incubation. So if you have an issue in your life, or you have a question, decision you need to make, and you just want your dreams to figure it out for you, let your subconscious figure this issue out for you. You just set an intention before you fall asleep. So already when you're going to bed, before you fall asleep, you just think intensively about this thing that's on your mind. Not intensively so you can't fall asleep, of course, but just keep it in your mind as you're falling asleep. And then you might not actually dream about it. You might not remember what you dreamt of. That doesn't matter. The thing is that your subconscious knows, it will figure it out. The next morning you wake up, there's a high chance that you will find clarity. You will receive insights to your question that you just had, or your stress or whatever tension about it might dissipate because your brain just figured it out. So you basically just ask yourself to figure out something, but unconsciously, because you can't consciously figure it out, for instance. So also dream incubating is just setting intentions to meet your guides, angels. It just means that you're falling asleep with this intention for that to happen, and then you just trust that it happens. Um, so yeah, so there's a lot. I think those are the main points that I wanted to mention that are most, I think, prevalent and maybe helpful for people. Because like I said, there's also astral travel, lucid dreaming, past life recall. But I don't think many of us necessarily go into a dream state for that purpose, or might be interested. So just for the time that we have available, I've mentioned, I think, the main points that I wanted to mention. Yeah, and just, I suppose, maybe a quick reminder, if anyone is wondering what their dreams mean, I do dream interpretation readings, so I still use cards, but I also will be digging deeper into this symbolic meaning of your dreams. So whatever shows up in your dream, I can research that prior to our consultation, and then I would still do a card reading, which I personally found is very, very helpful in understanding what is it that I'm dreaming about. And that's available on my website. I do also mini dream interpretation or insight into your dreams, which is just the mini card reading through my Etsy shop. But that's, we're not getting into any details. I just pull cards to see what they say or what you need to know about this dream without, digging deeper. However, I will be also putting, as time allows, more content on my YouTube channel about dreams. So if anyone has any questions on anything in particular about around their dreams, then let me know and I'll be happy to cover it as well. So yeah.
Interesting.
And I'm really looking forward to the day when I'll be ready to open my little dream practice, I suppose you can call it, or it will be an extra modality, because although I do a bit of dream interpretation and understanding the symbology, it's more of a sort of like a counseling sort of sessions with my cards as well. But there will be more. So I'll be doing sessions with individuals and or groups where we can just dive deeper into familiarizing ourselves with dreams, understanding them, and just basically discovering all of the magic, I suppose, learning all about lucid dreaming, astral travels, past life recall, all of these things. So if anyone is a dream fan, then there will be a group or a circle for you to join. But yeah, but I'm going. That's a little bit of a taster, I suppose, because it's not available just yet. Okay. Um, unless there's anything else from you, Mel.
No, I don't think so. I think that's given me a few things that I want to try, and definitely going to put my notepad by the side of the bed, and I might even try the not at night when I go to sleep, but set an intention and just like have an afternoon nap if you like. Just go and set an intention. What do I need to know about something? Just daydream for a bit because I'm more likely to
Yes.
remember
That's a
it.
very good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one of the ways to maybe start remembering your dreams is to either take naps where you know you don't have a lot of time, so you'll be waking up
Yeah.
from that dream, so you can write it down. Or if you're very determined, you could put an alarm on during the night to wake you up in those moments. Once or twice at night or early in the morning before your actual time of when you usually wake up, so that you're woken up from the dream. Because the lighter the dream is, the lighter our sleep state is, the more we remember of the dreams. We
Mm.
of course want to dream deeply to be rested in the morning, but as a little exercise, if you can, and if you want to, you can also do that. Okay. But yeah, naps are very good. Whenever I can take a nap, then I usually fall kind of asleep because it's not a full sleep, but I fall lightly asleep thinking about something, and I seem to be just talking, whether it's myself or my spirit guide. I don't even know, to be honest, but I just have some sort of a conversation, a resolution to something. So yeah, it's a good way of doing that. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, any stories to share, as usual, please feel free to comment um, when you watch this, whenever it is that you watch it. And if you'd like us to cover a topic, also let us know. Give us suggestions. We'll be happy to take note of that as well. Okay, so thank you very much, and we shall see you next time.
We'll see you next week.